personal development. She inspires audience to choose love over fear through practical strategies. Meghan cultivates mindfulness, financial growth, and long-term success, creating lasting positive change. Come on, sing out.
Hi, thank you. What a welcome, and also what a fitting song, because I absolutely love it. I am so honored to be here with you all today in Paris. And as I get into this talk, first of all, can you raise your hand if you have ever felt like you've hit a ceiling in your life, whether it be your own limitation, whether it be a societal limitation? Yeah, majority of the room, myself included. Now imagine for a moment if the barriers that are holding you back were not fixed. They were something that you could overcome with the right mindset. And also consider, how would your life change if you knew that failure was not an option, but a stepping stone to your success? And I know I've heard a few people mention that this weekend, and we're going to talk more about that as I get into my talk today. So I help professionals break through their personal and professional ceilings to help them design a life that they truly love. And it's not based on what I think somebody should be doing. It's truly based on their own decision and ideas of what brings them true joy, true appreciation, and gratitude. And as I get into this, is it okay if I start by sharing a little bit about my story? So, a couple years after university, I was driving as a courier, driving my life into the ground, going to automobile university. So I was listening to audiobooks. I would listen to 100 to 200 books in a year. Speed 2.0 is my friend. And with that, I was running myself and my car into the ground until I was in a car accident. You can see my car up in the top corner there. It was totaled. I was fine. I kind of skipped out and was like, okay, so now we're going to do something different, and we are going to focus on building a life that you love. I loved what I was doing, and I wanted to be able to travel and still get paid. I wanted to be able to have more flexibility, and in that job or that career or that business, I could not leave without my paycheck or my income stopping. So I would go away and I would invest a lot of money, and then I would come back and I'd be like, shit, I just spent everything and also didn't earn anything while I was gone. So after the accident, I took some time and I went traveling, as one does when life throws you a curveball or a stop sign or whatever it was. And so I started going to, and I had already been going to masterminds and events, and I went to Indonesia. So this is me in Indonesia at the Temple Tanalot, or the Tanalot Temple, actually I think it's called. But while I was traveling, I re-listened to Timothy Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, yeah. So as I re-listened to the book, and the first time I had read or listened to the book, my takeaway was, I have to be a business owner, I have to be an entrepreneur, and I have to build this life on my own. But the second time I listened to it, I realized he's actually saying, align yourself with an organization or align yourself with a group, align yourself with an opportunity that enables you to create that life that you want while also still pursuing those entrepreneurial adventures or those entrepreneurial experiences or endeavors. So I did some more traveling, landed back in Calgary, Alberta. I'm from Canada, I live on the East Coast now. But I landed back in Calgary and decided I was not going to settle for mediocrity. I was not going to allow the limitations that I had set upon myself and the fact that I had previously had certain types of careers keep me in positions that had me playing small. So although I took what I needed to take to get myself through and to pay my sister some rent money and pay off some of the debt that I accrued because I wasn't working for 6 months, I also was steadfast in the idea and the vision that I want an opportunity that enables me to travel, to have a remote lifestyle that aligns with my goals of personal empowerment and my vision for a lifestyle that enables entrepreneurship, and that allows me to continue to build this lifestyle while also being able to like eat, because eating and rent is also important. During that time, I had the privilege, I took a temp job, and in that time, the owner of the temp agency offered me, or the guy that I was temping for through the owner was like, oh, I want you to come work for me, like, you have a great attitude, I really want you on my team. And I was like, I've seen your finances, and I know you are not going to give me the lifestyle that I want, because you are not doing very well with your own management of life. So that's not for me, but I'll stick it out here until I find something that's more aligned, which I did. I was fortunate enough to start in a corporate career that has enabled me to, I'm actually going to Dublin right after this, but it's enabled me to travel the world over the last 5 years, take my vacations without losing my income, create a life that I love. I work with entrepreneurs, I work in developer support, I enable businesses to transform their business and do global sales. So it was a really empowering decision to say no to something that in that moment was right in front of me, knowing this vision of health and wealth and alignment of goals and alignment of self and purpose is more important. I'm not afraid of storms, for I'm learning how to sail my ship. This is a quote. Louisa May Alcott was the author of Little Women. And I found it as I was doing research for this. Initially I had some like Jim Rohn quotes that I really love, and I'd heard them a million times in Automobile University, and then I thought, oh shit, we're going to International Women's Day weekend. Pretty sure I should align more with that and take out some of these other quotes that are just so like ingrained in my life. So this quote reminds me, and is very fitting, of the idea of a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. Right. And I'm sure most of the people in the room today are familiar with the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. If anyone's not, a growth mindset is the concept. It's coined by Carol Dweck, and it's the belief that your abilities, intelligence, and skills can be developed through effort, learning, and perseverance. Whereas a fixed mindset assumes that talent and intelligence is static. So I know what I know, and it's what it is, and this is where I'm at, and things are not going to change. Can you think of somebody famous or that you personally know who embodies the idea of a growth mindset? Just take a moment, let's think about that. Maybe someone that's overcome a failure, they've kept learning, they've turned a setback into their success. Yeah, so many of us face these invisible ceilings of the self-doubt, the fear of failure. There is societal ceilings that are placed upon us, but through a growth mindset and those with vision that have the fortitude to push forward are the change makers that make it so that ceiling gets a little higher for the next person, and then it gets a little higher for the person after that. A growth mindset is the belief of the abilities, intelligence that can be developed through dedication. I said it, but that's the slide. So here are some thoughts that are aligned with either fixed or growth mindset thinking. So a couple examples: I can't change how smart I was born. I won't ever be good at this. Mistakes and failure are bad, so I avoid them, is on the fixed side. On the growth side, we have I want to learn. I welcome and learn from feedback. I know we talked about feedback earlier in the room. Mistakes are learning opportunities. That's a huge one. And there's a couple of other ones up there. I wanted to share a couple of examples of women that have the embodiment of a growth mindset. So this is J.K. Rowling, and for those of you that are not familiar, she is the writer of Harry Potter. I've never even read a book. I think I've watched part of one of the movies, but it's not really like my thing. But in terms of her success story, somebody that was turned down by 12 publishers and continued to push forward as a single mother, going through all that she was going through, to turn it into a billion-dollar empire, like, wow, incredible. We also have Vera Wang, who, if you're unfamiliar with her story, she was a skater that did not make it to the Olympics, and then she was working for Vogue and was passed over for the editor-in-chief role, so she went on to build a billion-dollar fashion empire. the fabulous Oprah. I mean, what's not to love about her? She was fired from her first TV job, which I can certainly relate to. I got fired from one of my first jobs for my attitude. I was told that it was not welcome in the company because I did say to a colleague that my manager was acting like a bitch. And she was. She wasn't around, but word got back to her. Lesson in that is don't talk shit about your manager. It was when I was like 17, but live and learn, so I've learned. And it turned out to be such a blessing. I moved on to go to a bunch of other companies, and in one of them, because I was let go from that job, I met my best friend, and I got half of my university paid for, and a bunch of other things when I was in my 20s, so massive gift. But in that moment, the day that my sister was trying to teach me how to drive a standard, and I go in to get my school books in my second day of university after spending all of my savings for school, to find out that I was no longer welcome there. Oh my Lord. Yeah, that was not a good moment, but it helped me. So Oprah was fired from her first job as a TV anchor after being told she wasn't fit for television. And instead of giving up, she refined her skills, growth mindset, embraced her authentic self, and built her media empire. And then we have Sarah Blakely, and she was also mentioned earlier today. Before founding Spanx, Sarah Blakely faced years of rejection selling fax machines door to door. And she attributes her success to her dad asking every day at the dinner table, "What did you fail at today?" The lesson there is failure is feedback. Every rejection is a stepping stone. So let's take a moment and think of a challenge that we faced. How could we have approached it differently if we could have? And how could it have transformed something in our life, even reflecting back, when we think of it from the frame of a growth mindset? I recently was introduced to this woman, Dr. Becky Kennedy, and she calls the feeling of frustration, or the space of between knowing and not knowing, the learning space. So this is the uncomfortable but necessary gap between what we know and what we're about to learn. Most people take this feeling of discomfort as failure, but in reality, it is growth in action. I'm sure a lot of you in the room are familiar with the idea or the concept by Noel Birch. So it's the 4 levels of learning, or the 4 stages of learning. We have unconscious incompetence, you don't know what you don't know. Conscious incompetence, you realize what you don't know, and this is where the frustration starts to kick in. So you're starting to step into that space of like, oh God, I don't know anything about this. What even is that? Then we have conscious competence. You're improving, but it still takes effort. And then we have unconscious incompetence. So the skill becomes second nature. What Dr. Becky Kennedy is talking about in that space of unknowing, or the space of learning, is between 2 and 3. So conscious incompetence and conscious competence. We don't know it, and then we're learning about it, and then we have to think about it before we can do it. So most people tend to quit at level 2 when they're in that feeling of frustration. But if you push through, you don't just learn a skill, you actually rewire your mindset for growth and your ability to break through any of those invisible or perceived ceilings. You build competence and confidence in your ability to learn and grow through anything. So, how can we make sure that we don't quit when things get hard, so we can break through those ceilings that we are hitting up against when we reach them? I want to share 5 ideas that can help us create limitless success. So the first one, feedback as failure. So we're going to reframe feedback as failure, which we've talked about a little bit today. Failure isn't a stop sign, it's a checkpoint. Every successful person has failed, and the difference is they don't see failure as the end. They see it as an opportunity to refine themselves, to make different decisions, to learn about the process or the experience, and to grow through it. Instead of asking, why did I fail? If we ask ourselves, what can I learn? This one shift is going to help us take bigger risks, bounce back faster, and keep moving forward. Progress over perfection. Many high achievers get stuck waiting until they feel like they're ready. But perfectionism is procrastination in disguise. And we heard about the negative toxins, the 4 toxins in moving forward yesterday. So this is relevant to that. Tony Robbins, I'm a big advocate of his, he says, perfection is the lowest standard in the world because it's impossible to attain. So if instead of striving for perfection, if we focus on having progress, then we are going to continue to move the needle forward. As Sheryl Sandberg says, done is better than perfect. And I definitely live true to that with lots of things in my life when I'm like, I just need to get the social media post done, I just need to do the video, I just need to do the thing, because if I don't just get it done now and I continue to think about it, I'll do 1,500 takes and then they'll all sit in my drafts. So definitely something to learn from that. The power of yet. So when we catch ourselves saying, I'm not good at that, or I can't do that, if we add the word yet to the sentence, then we're actually conditioning our minds to open up to possibilities. That word shifts us from limitation to possibility, and our future self, because it's always growing when you're developing a growth mindset, is going to help you continue to transform. It kind of is the entryway into the idea of transformational language, which is the intentional use of words, phrases, and communication techniques to inspire change, shift perspectives, and create lasting impact. It's very small, but it says, create a circle of influence. I like to say, your circle of influence becomes your affluence. So who you spend time with shapes what you believe is possible. If you're surrounded by people who think small, you're going to feel small. And if you surround yourself like people in this room who challenge themselves, take risks, embrace growth, and their mindset allows them to expand, their expansion will expand you. It's very small up there in the 5th little thing. Constant and never-ending improvement. Again, totally aligned with the idea of a growth mindset. Every expert was once a beginner, and the most successful people I know never stop learning. They read books, they take courses, they hire mentors, and they're constantly seeking out feedback. When we live a life of Kenai, then we are raising the bar. We're breaking through what was previously perceived as a ceiling, and we're making that the floor and expanding our potential. Dr. Joe Dispenza says your personality determines your personal reality. And if you want to change your results, you have to change the way you think, feel, and act. It goes very well with your talk about the subconscious mind. A growth mindset is not something that we switch on and off. It's a way of life. So when you commit to constant and never-ending improvement, then your reality shifts to match the person that you're becoming. These qualities don't just help people succeed, they actually remove the ceilings altogether. Now these are talking about mental internal ceilings. I recognize that there are a lot of societal and other barriers out there in the world. I am of the belief that the people that are breaking through those ceilings for the next person or raising the ceiling for the next people to come are the ones that are continuously growing and believing in themselves, because the ceilings are not going to get removed if everyone thinks that it's unmovable. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I have lived through this horror, I can take the next thing that comes along. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. And while the last sentence is like the oomph in that whole phrase, I really wanted to include the beginning part of it because I believe strength, courage, and confidence is so important, and that those beliefs in self are built, once again, by developing a growth mindset. So let's look at some qualities that fuel our limitless success. The first one is increased confidence. When you believe in your ability to learn and adapt, you're going to take bigger risks, you're going to step into leadership roles, and you're going to push beyond what you once thought was possible. Perseverance, or stick-with-itness. The most successful people are not necessarily the most talented. They're the ones who refuse to give up. This quality of perseverance ensures that we keep moving forward no matter what shows up. Resourcefulness, or figure-it-out ability. Instead of seeing obstacles as roadblocks, we see them as puzzles to solve. This adaptability allows continuous growth and success. Resilience, we talked about that just earlier, and a few times this weekend. So that's the ability to bounce back quickly. It means that setbacks are not defining us, they're refining us, and it allows us to keep moving forward. Curiosity, the ability to ask questions, to be curious, to be open, and to continue to dig into things, helps us to continue to learn and grow and remove those ceilings. So the world belongs to lifelong learners, and the more we seek knowledge and experience, the more opportunities we're going to create for ourselves. Magnetism. When you exude passion and conviction, you naturally attract opportunities, collaborators, and resources. Self-trust, knowing that no matter what happens, you can figure it out. And even if you can't figure it out, you will be okay, because you know within your own self that regardless of circumstances, life is working for you and is going to be worth showing up for regardless of outcomes. And then the last one I have up here is the ownership mentality. Instead of waiting for permission, with a growth mindset, we create our own doors and opportunities. This is the key to disrupting industries, launching movements, and building legacies. Limitless success comes from expansion, not restriction. I was just making sure the slide changed. We know how the clicker's been today. Women who embrace these qualities don't just climb ladders, they build new ones. They don't just break the ceilings, they eliminate them entirely. They redefine what's possible, not for themselves, but for everyone else who follows. So if you're ready to break through your ceiling, I'd like to invite you to join me in my 12-week program that I did put together exclusively for this event. I'm going to go through this part quickly, but it is the opportunity, and in the first phase we have momentum. So I've built an online course called the Mindful Wealth Blueprint, and in that we have modules on transformation, the power of your mind, goal setting, self-motivation, mindfulness and meditation, developing new habits, how you can create transformation in your own life, increasing productivity is really like a suite of everything I've learned over the last 15 years in the personal development space. And you have instant access to the module that includes desktop and an app, videos, workbooks, and all that fun stuff. I also am opening up a group coaching opportunity. It would be like a group mentoring opportunity where we would have weekly calls for 12 weeks going through this work, direct support, accountability, and feedback going through the lessons, a Q&A session, and a private Facebook group for everyone that joins. We would then have transformation, which is personal growth mastery. So it would include a one-on-one session and access to an in-person training, virtual training, where I share how I went from $40,000 to over $120,000 per year in my career, just through developing a growth mindset and being open to learning opportunities. So the Mindful Wealth Blueprint, your path to success. Again, it is the lifetime access to my online course, which is a $297 value. I only know like the conversion for euros for the bottom part, so sorry I can't do that right now. Breakthrough with weekly and growth and accountability, which is $1997. Transforming your personalized career growth and mastery, which is the $497. So for $27.91. Oh, that was the right slide. It would be $795 or 733 euros. 2 payments of 445 or 410 euros. And then if you are ready to take what we talked about and turn it into real results, then you're welcome to scan this QR code. If you're not interested in that, you just want to connect with me on Facebook, please also scan the QR code and connect with me there. If you did want to learn more about that offer, then just send me the message with the word Paris, and I'll send you the details. Otherwise, remember, your success isn't determined by your talent, it's determined by your willingness to grow. Ceilings aren't real, they're the stories that we tell ourselves, and with the right mindset, we can rewrite those stories and create a future beyond what we thought was possible. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, man, it's your birthday. Want to party like it's your birthday? Yeah, I'm telling y'all, we got to live this room up. I'm not dancing. Hey, man, we got